Great. So, hi everyone, and welcome to Capsules, my webinar series. Today we have with us Nathalie Pichard, who is the Executive Director, Curator, and a co-founder of ArtTech Foundation. Nathalie is a strong driver for the intersection of technological innovation, the arts, and culture. She was the first director of Art Lab at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, Lausanne. And as founder and CEO of Concilio, she also manages various projects that combine tech innovation, art, and culture. I know everyone's as excited as I am, so during the presentation, if you have any questions or comments, please send them on the chat below. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll have a Q&A session. And now, before I hand it over to Nathalie, I just want to remind everyone that Capsule is happening on June 20th and 21st. And before the event, during June, we will have our social sessions. So we're very excited to see you all there as well. And then now, Nathalie, you can take over.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Arvan. I'm very happy to be with you. So I'm in Switzerland. I have Lake Geneva just very near from me. It's a very beautiful day. And as you can hear, so I'm not speaking English person, so I speak French. And so I apologize if I have I make some mistakes or if I can't speak as fluently as in my own language, but we will try. So I'm very happy to be able to share with you some insights about technology and culture. And in fact, I'd like to give you some perspective about the relationship between culture and technology, and to show how technology can foster a more equitable culture too. So as I say, I'm going to give you some insights based on my experience and the experience of the ArtTech Foundations. I will talk about the ArtTech Foundations in a few minutes. And this experience is, in fact, acquired over the last 3 years. So my presentation will, of course, not be exhaustive. And I prepared it more to stimulate your interest and stimulate your questions. And I will be very happy to be able to answer or to exchange with you about what I'm going to say. Some quick words about the ArtTech Foundation. We launched the foundations in 2017, so 3 years ago. We wanted, in fact, to promote research, technology, and art or culture. And I will later define what we define as culture. Our objective is also to create an international community that can bring together stakeholders in the field. We are a Swiss non-profit foundation, but we work at the international level. So it's very important for us to be connected with you, with the US, with Europe. Unfortunately, we have, for now, very few contact with Asia, but we hope to develop in this part of the world too. So what we'd like to do is also to support innovative projects, so you will see how. And I think that to summarize what we're doing is that our keywords are culture, technologies or science, and entrepreneurship, so startups. So this is our DNA, if I can say. And just something we don't do, because it's also important to give the real context. When we talk about art and science, we often talk about artistic creations. And even if we don't exclude these parts of culture and science, so the creations by artists, it's not our focus. So I will not really talk about this today, but we can, of course, exchange about that. So what do we do? So what makes the foundation? I'm just realizing that I'm not sharing I'm not sharing my screen.
Oh, that's okay.
Because I have my papers, but you don't have.
Yeah, it's okay.
Can you see the presentation now or not?
Right now we cannot yet.
Okay, so I think that probably it will maybe come. Well, it will come. Okay. Can you see something or not?
No, not right.
Oh, unfortunately, because I think that it would be much. I'm sorry, if I can just take 1 minute.
Yeah, no.
We tested it, and I can't.
we just went through it. It's okay.
Sometimes it takes a while,
Let's see.
but well, I'm really sorry because to
Oh, it's
me
okay.
it's written that I can share.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if okay,
Oh,
there we go. We can see it.
you can see it.
Yep,
Okay.
it's going in.
And so maybe if I can, okay,
There we go. Yeah,
better like that, probably.
sounds good.
It sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. So just to present, well, I was here and well, I just talk about that. So you can see also how we are organized. I will talk about the different activities now. So we have different activities, but we are mainly focused on our ArtTech forum. So this is an annual international event. So we invite researchers, experts of all areas, or cultural areas, and we propose them to network, and we propose them, sorry, to be part of conferences, debates, or workshops. So this is we will be organizing our next digital also Arctic Forum for the reasons you know, the 5th of November, and I hope that some of you or all of you could be able to participate in this new format of forum. So this is something very important. As I explained, so we are focused on startups. I will talk about startups later, and you will see what we're doing better too. And we organize a competition for young entrepreneurs, which is quite new because it's not so often that you can see startups being able to pitch in front of people who know what is culture and what is business in the field of culture. Uh, just to be very short, you see also that we have a sort of incubator. It's more virtual, but what we'd like to do is also to network as much as possible. We are currently working on an investment fund, a VC fund, and we hope to be able also to help the startups like that with the money of the investment fund. So we think that, in fact, or we think that this sector is very important. I think that it's maybe easier to speak about cultural and creative industries. It's something maybe you understand. You probably know that this is a very promising sector. Strategic also because it contributes to the well-being of communities, to the quality of life, to create also values, not only business values, but also cultural values. Even if we see and we know that this is in fact this value in terms of money is very big. But I don't want to force to focus too much on this, but just for you to know that we are talking of billions of dollars, and that it's also important in terms of business. I was talking about culture, about the field of culture. I like to explain better what we think we must integrate in this scope. As you can see some words. So it means that we speak about arts, photography, cultural heritage, music, movies, gaming, performing arts, etc., etc. But we talk also about technologies, which have always supported art and culture for hundreds of years. But today we talk about AR, VR, artificial intelligence, blockchains, and a lot of technologies which can help also the culture to be more visible or to promote cultural contact to be more accessible. And this is why we think that the field of culture and technology is very large, broad, and that we need to be large and to think culture like that. I like to present shortly a few projects and companies as an illustration of what I'm saying. You probably, or I hope you probably heard about the Montreux Jazz Festival, So this is a very famous festival, jazz festival, in not very near from Geneva or from Lausanne, where I live and where we have our office. So the festival recorded the concepts of artists since its creation. So there is a very big amount of archives, and these archives have been digitized. Why? Because it allows to launch also a lot of research projects, but also it allows to valorize all these memories and facts. So this is a first example I would like to show you, just to have you to have you better understand what we are talking about. Another project also coming from the academy, in fact from a university where we are very close to, is the project Venice Time Machine. In fact, this is a very interesting project whose ambition is to recreate a multi-dimensional model of the city of Venice based on kilometers of archives. Very advanced technology are used. So this is an ongoing project now, which will be developing at the European level too, because other cities such as Amsterdam or Paris will be also working on this project for their cities. And so these advanced technologies, for instance, character recognition, 3D modeling, or also technologies such as scanning of documents without opening these documents. So this is something completely new. And this research also allows to read differently the past and to read differently heritage preservation. So this is also something I think it's very important to know when we talk about culture and technologies. You probably know also Disney, of course, but maybe you don't know that Disney has several research centers, and one of these centers is in Switzerland, in Zurich. And a lot of researchers are working on new tools for film, cartoons, etc. And also what is also very interesting, with the objective of creating companies. So we're always talking about research, but also creation of companies. You can see on the slide different, you can see what they are working on. I had the opportunity to visit the research center, and I must say it's really amazing. Another thing I'd like to present you is, in fact, to show you that it exists a business environment which is also developing more and more. And this business environment is also built by very renowned companies which are welcoming, or which welcome startups and offers them a very interesting environment for their development. I just take here the example of Abbey Road Studios. You probably know it because they recorded the Beatles, Pink Floyd, etc., etc. And so they opened an incubator some years ago, and a lot of companies now had the possibilities to develop thanks to this company environments, especially in the sound industry and in the music industries. Another example, very quickly too, is Techstars. You probably know them better than I. So they are also very active in developing startups and helping them. What is also interesting, that personalities such as Beyonce, Jay-Z, etc., are also people who are decided to invest in such incubators and in such companies. So it means that you can also promote culture, you can promote music, and you can also promote your own business. I will show you some examples. so I will not explain every companies on this slide, but you know that it exists a lot of companies. And some of I'd like to explain or to present you some startups we at the ArtTech Foundation are following. So what is interesting that many of these startups promote values, and values I think all would like to share. For instance, Smartify. Smartify is the art, or the Shazam of the art. So you have an app, you can identify any artwork in museums or almost everywhere. So this is something very interesting. And they say, I just want to read you something. They think that they are a social enterprise serving a global community of art venues, artists, and art lovers, and we want you on board. And this is very interesting as commitments for me. We also have Nomad Music. So they also won the ArtTech Prize, so our competition in 2018. It's also an app. You can play the piano with an orchestra, a very famous orchestra, and by taking the pianist or the place of the pianist. And so this startup is also promoting classical music. And for me, it's also something very interesting that most of the startups would like to promote culture and would like to share values and being a part of the well-being of our community. A last startup of various arts, just to give you some other idea of where these startups work. Various arts create certification and authentication for pieces of art, and we also have a lot of platforms, so companies which offer the possibility to connect artists, buyers, sellers, and also now creators or artists by helping them with new tools to make other, to create other, or to be more creative. So in the arts market, you have a lot also of such startups. So my last startups, and after we can talk together. My last startups, that you probably know this startup, Tidal, sorry, I can't pronounce it. So this is an interesting startup too, because this one is a music streaming and entertainment platform, and they say that it brings artists and fans closer together. It's interesting too because you have very famous artists such as Alicia Keys, Kanye West, Madonna, Jay-Z, Beyonce, etc., who are owners of this platform and who co-founded, in fact, such platforms. So it means that the artists themselves would like to be more and more involved also in the creation of companies. Another one is less famous, but it comes from Switzerland too. It's Artmeans. What is interesting is they have been able to create tools, technologies to at the service of art, because they can help to preserve pieces of art. They can also promote arts and in galleries, in museums, and for instance to create a virtual tool. So this is something interesting, and maybe if you'd like to have the references, you can also afterwards have a tour on their websites. Well, I think that's my last one is also it's Verity Studios. It's also a Swiss startup in Zurich. It shows how culture is close now to entertainment, and I think that's it's interesting to see that the boundaries between culture and entertainment are thinner and thinner, and that in terms of business, we need to consider it very. We need to consider it. So Verity Studios developed drones which can be it's a choreography. In fact, it's like dance, and they work for shows for different, for the Cirque du Soleil, for instance, for very big shows at the international level. So I think that just to be at the end. So I hope that I've shown that the field of culture, all disciplines, and I hope that I be able to show that culture is very large disciplines. So I hope to have shown that. So culture is opening up widely to technology, and it makes culture more and more accessible, sorry, to everyone, which allow also to promote culture, but also to preserve culture. And I think that it's very important values. And I think that for our well-being and for creating common values, it's these startups and this the field of culture is also very important. Okay, so I think that I stop here. I'd be very glad, happy to share with you some comments.
Yeah, no, that was incredible. This is so great. And we have a couple questions. I can start reading them off and then we can just discuss it. So the first one comes from Experimental Civics, and they ask, how do access market viability for your project? Not having a strong market product fit is the hardest hurdle for entrepreneurs or founders to address. Yeah, so how do you access market viability for your project?
Oh, okay. Well, so it's a good question, because in fact the problem for the startup in the field of culture is that they are not very or they consider not when they talk with businessmen and with investors, so they are not considered like businessmen or women. I mean, so it means that so the market for this for culture is sometimes quite narrow. Not because it doesn't exist, but because people don't understand very well what the startup wants to do. So I'm not sure to have answered very well, but and yes, I think that what works the best is also services that the startups can offer, but also of course devices, and especially in the sound field, for instance.
Okay. And then they also ask, what ArtTech communities will you suggest to be involved with, and which ones are, and which one are you a part of which you love?
I think that's as a foundation, non-profit foundation, it's really great for us to be very, very open. So it means that we don't have, we only have the objective to network, to make the community growing. And I think that's we are very open to all ArtTech communities. What I explained at the beginning, that we're less focused on art and science community. So it means with artists using new technologies. So we are. It's not our focus, but well. So we are very open.
I love that. We all love that. So I have a question from Alexia, and she asked. She was saying how the first two projects that you presented depended heavily on the use of archives and digitalization. So she's asking if you've seen a correlation of the use of archives and the country where those projects are coming from. And I think just like that, like, have there been a correlation between the different type of tech innovations and the countries they're coming from?
Yeah, this is a good question. So I think that so the project I've seen comes from all over the world. A lot of very interesting projects comes also from Asia, because they have heritage. In fact, I don't know a lot of projects in the US, but it's not because it doesn't exist, but probably. But it's true also that Europe is the country or the region of culture. And you have, in terms of archiving, you have a lot of things to do in Europe. So Venice is a great example, but we also have, and as I explained you, we also have music archives. I could give other examples, such as, for instance, at the University of Lausanne, so in my town, they developed a project on Palmyra. So you probably know that Palmyra has been destroyed, and now there are a lot of projects using old photographies, old documentation, trying to rebuild in 3D modeling, 3D model, so the city. So I think that it's not a question of country. I think it's more a question of opportunities.
Yeah, no, I love everything you said. Yes, that I relate to it. And then we have a question from Quinn, and he had, on average, how many projects enter the art prize?
Well, in fact, we have 8 startups invited to pitch during our events, or during the ArtTech forum, because it is one piece of the forum, and to come to these 8 startups, we scout regularly, and we have about 150 startups in our database. From this 150, we launch a call to these startups, but to about 50 startups, and afterwards we present to the jury about 25 startups. So, but it exists a lot of startups. But I must say that startups which use technologies and very high level technology are quite rare. So, but yeah, and we hope to have more and more startups interested in our initiative. In fact,
yeah, no, I mean, it's great, and I think it's a very good opportunity for them, and like to see what we can create. You know, it's an amazing. I love it. So I was wondering if anyone has any other questions that you would like to send. We can have like any last minute questions. Let's see. Yeah, okay. And if not, oh, okay, we have one question. Let me just, I can't read it on my computer. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, I can see the question. So,
yeah, okay.
if we work with archaeologists, historians, and what type of technology we use, yeah, yes, of course, we. So even if the foundation is not a foundation which has its own project, so we are partners. We try to help with our network. We make this project visible, but we're not really project managers, in fact, unfortunately for now, because we don't have a lot of resources. So just not the first thing. But yes, in fact, all the projects I mentioned, and especially the recreations of a city, are in fact a team job. I mean, so the job is done by a lot of people. It can be IT people, of course, but the archaeologists and historian are a part of this project. For example, for Venice Time Machine, so the archives of Venice are very involved. So they worked very strongly with the IT people, and I think that this is exactly the same with Palmyra. So I think that these projects are really projects which can be done only with a lot of people, with a lot of disciplines working together. Yeah. And the technologies, the technologies are very different. It's mostly IT, but as I explained, it can be very, and I don't know how to say it, even in French. So it's, I gave the example of this technology with which you can open books without opening books.
Yeah.
You can see the pages, you can read
Yeah.
the text, but without any action. So, but I don't know how it works, and yeah. So
No,
it's
yeah.
I think that what is interesting in this domain is the
Mhm.
technologies are very diverse.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a beautiful part of it. You know, you really do need that intersection of different fields on it in order for it to be efficacious. And I think a question I had on my side is for all of these young entrepreneurs are looking to start up their, work on their startups and the connection between art and culture. Before being able to get into ArtTech Foundation, what are some recommendations that you give them in order to break that barrier of entry?
Well, I think that it's mostly the ideas.
Mm.
Having this idea uh, which has not been tackled. So this is the first thing I think that, and but it can be from the technology point of view or from the culture point of view. So I think what is interesting for us is to have very diverse people, because you have people coming from the marketing, for instance, or being historians or archaeologists, and who don't know anything about technologies, but who will work
Yeah.
with people from technology. And you can also have Artmin, for instance, so the startup I showed. So they are people from labs, from EPFL, so the technological university in Switzerland, which is a very high level technology. And so they were just interested in culture. And so it means that they partners with people knowing culture, and having this, yeah, this education too.
Yeah. This is great. I'm very excited. This was excited to hear, and I'm very glad and happy that you were able to join us. And I'm pretty sure everyone that is listening now and that will listen to it later that have an interest in this intersection will find this completely useful. And I hope they do take part of this opportunity and even join the ArtTech forum and everything. And if
Yeah.
anyone, I mean, Susanna has said that this is so amazing. She's gonna comment.
Thank
So
you.
no, I'm very glad. And if anyone doesn't have any other questions, I just want to thank you once again for joining us. This was great.
So thank you very much for all of you, and I hope that you can follow our activities. And yeah, if you'd like to participate in our digital forum, so it will be like a webinar, and I will be very happy. And so you can find our contact probably, yeah, at UiRonza or on our website.
Great. Thank you. And once
Thank you
again,
so much.
everyone, Capsule happens June 20 and 21st. So we'll see you all there.
Okay.
Well,
Bye bye. Thank you
thank
to
you,
our. Bye
Nathalie.
bye. Thank you for your interest. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye bye.